Transformers Exodus, Chapter 4. Orion Pax looked up at the stars, and between him and the stars the twin points of moon bases 1 and 2. The other near Cybertron object, Trypticon Station, was out of sight on the other side of the planet. He walked the swooping streets and bridges of Iacon, pondering some of what he had heard Megatron say.
Freedom is every Cybertronian's right.
Perhaps. But what did freedom mean? If there were no castes, if Cybertronians were not organized and channeled into productive lines, if every Cybertronian simply decided what he wanted to do, the entire planet would descend into chaos. Orion Pax remembered being taught that freedom consisted of being free to contribute to the tasks that were appropriate and necessary to the caste you were born into. Unlimited choice, rather than leading to freedom, led to the paralysis of confusion. This was the teaching of who exactly? Sentinel Prime had never said it out loud, but he had overseen the rise of the caste system, preserving Cybertron when individuality threatened to tear the civilization of the Cybertronians into contending splinters.
Who does the caste system benefit? The higher castes. Who do the higher castes live off? You.
Orion Pax climbed the tower to an observation deck from which he could see all of Iacon. The contours of Cybertron, the living expression of Primus, arched away in all directions. Canyons leading to the interior, where plasma welled up from the well at the center of Cybertron, split the surface. Far, far to the west, he could see the highest peaks of the Manganese Mountains. To the north, over the horizon, was 6 lasers over Cybertron. Thinking of the amusement park, Orion Pax felt a twinge of anger. He had never been there. It was the preserve of the higher castes. Only rarely did lower caste Cybertronians pass through its gates, and Orion Pax had not yet been one of those fortunate lower caste individuals.
Individuals know what is best for them. Who but I know what I need? Who but you may decide what is best for you?
I would like to go to 6 lasers, thought Orion Pax. But if anyone walked up to 6 lasers and demanded to get in whenever the desire struck, the park would be overwhelmed. Structure was necessary, and individuals would never impose structure on themselves. Would they? Surely not. Sentient beings banded together and made decisions for the collective good. Not all of those decisions would benefit every individual. He was tangled up, uncertain what he should be thinking or feeling. What I need, thought Orion Pax, is a conversation that doesn't happen inside my own head.
What we should do,
Jazz said, after Orion Pax had tracked him down and met him at Macadam's old oil house,
is go to Kaon and see the gladiator fights for ourselves.
Are you serious? They're illegal. It's not even legal to see one. I don't think.
That doesn't seem to stop any of the people who do it,
Jazz pointed out. He drained off his can of Visco and waved at the bartender for another.
We could go, you know, and if some authority discovers us, if we get arrested or questioned, I'll claim it's a cultural investigation. That is what I do, you know.
This much was true. Orion Pax had met Jazz because he was a cultural investigator, charged, more or less, with making sense out of all the communications and other data that Orion Pax harvested from the grid every day. Jazz came into the Hall of Records looking for this or that bit of history, often enough that he and Orion Pax crossed paths regularly. They had developed a friendship. Orion Pax was a little intimidated by Jazz's carefree attitude toward life and authority. His caste was enough higher than Orion Pax's that he could get away with more. But it was also true that Jazz was more interested in getting away with things than Orion Pax ever had been. Where he saw an opportunity to bend rules, he bent them, and always just a little bit further than was perhaps prudent. He sipped his own Visco. Kaon is all the way on the other side of the planet. I've never been anywhere near there. He realized as he finished speaking that he had meant the words to come out as dismissive, but they sounded wistful. There was a great deal of Cybertron that Orion Pax had never seen. He had heard its citizens speaking from every nook and cranny, every tower and station of the planet. He had put their conversations and transmissions into useful categories so that people like Jazz could come into the Hall of Records and use the work of Orion Pax as raw material to fashion theories with. He felt a sudden kinship with the workers in the factories. They made machines. He made data. Were they so different? As soon as he mentioned this to Jazz, the culture investigator laughed. Yes, Orion, you're different. Your work won't kill you. And when you can't do it anymore, nobody's gonna throw you into a heap and turn your broken body into data cubes or image matrices. Jazz's words hit Orion Pax like a physical blow. You're not pulling any punches, he commented. Those who are fortunate should know how fortunate they are, Jazz said. Then he sipped at his Visco and waited for Orion Pax to get his thoughts in order. I wonder if I could get in contact with him, Orion Pax said after a silence. The Visco, as it always did, invigorated him, filled him with possibilities. With who? This Megatron? Jazz shrugged. Possibly. Why would you want to? You don't find him interesting? Jazz laughed. I find everything interesting. That is what I was made to do. Find things interesting. Listen, Pax, if you want to go to Kaon, let's go to Kaon. I can get travel passes for research. I can claim that I need someone like you to harvest data. Should I talk to the archivist? Orion Pax considered this for some time. History moves in cycles, he said after a while. This much I've seen just rooting around in the archives. I thought you weren't supposed to be rooting around in the archives, Jazz said. Careful you don't step outside the boundaries of your caste, my friend. How can I not? Orion Pax asked. He drank off the rest of his Visco. I have a mind. I can think and analyze. Jazz waited the perfect amount of time before responding. If you say so. Easy for you to joke. You can do whatever you want. I'm a data clerk. Orion Pax leaned over the table toward his friend. He trusted Jazz implicitly and could say things to him that he would never say to anyone else. Where is it written that I have to stay a data clerk? Is there some ledger somewhere that the primes keep, out in one of the spiral arms? Is my name in it next to the designation data clerk? I don't think so. You sound a bit like your gladiator friend, Jazz said. He's not my friend. Orion Pax thought about it. But perhaps it is time that I talk to him. He knew how the grid worked. He spent his days wading through its matrices and intersections. If there was one thing Orion Pax had learned as a consequence of this, it was how to get a transmission across the grid without anyone but the intended recipient knowing about it. During his next shift, in the dim silence of the data mining section in the Hall of Records, Orion Pax did his job. But while he did his job, he was also formulating a plan to get a secret transmission through this gladiator insurgent Megatron. Different possibilities for what to say overwhelmed him. He thought about it for the duration of his shift. Then, as he was due to leave, he decided on something simple. What you say is interesting, but more people are hearing than you realize. Let's speak. He attached contact information to it, using a dead-end bit of storage space that wasn't coded for anything in the current grid configuration. Then he sent it off and stayed late, combing the grid for more signs of what Megatron might be thinking, doing, saying, or planning.